session by our talented mentor, Dr. Ramya. But first, let me give you a brief introduction about us. So, MedExam Expert is an internationally recognized online study platform for the MRCOG and other examinations. We provide online courses to aspiring doctors across the globe. We offer some multiple courses like MRCOG 1, MRCOG 2, MRCOG 3, MRCPI, APCOG, FCPS 1, and FCPS 2. So if you're aiming to sit for the exams, so you can join our course. Our course is starting from October 15, and we are also giving free trial sessions. So if you want free trial sessions, you can contact our team. Now let me tell you about the course mentors. So we are having 4 course mentors, Dr. Muhammad Helmi, Dr. Ramya Sree, Dr. Desri, and Dr. Nairoz. Dr. Helmi is a lead mentor for MRCOG 1. He is a consultant and lecturer for OBS and Gynae. Dr. Desri is a well-qualified tutor for biostatistics and microbiology. She is obstetrician gynecologist. Dr. Nairoz is also a well-qualified tutor for OBS and Gynae. She has joined us in 2018. Dr. Ramya is a well-qualified tutor from India. She is infertility specialist. Now let me tell you about our course plan. We're having 2 course plans, premium plan and the standard plan. In the standard plan, we are giving flashcards, important exam-like questions, PDFs, mock exams, weekly topic test, biostatistic workshop, and the recorded sessions. Whereas in the premium plan, there will be live sessions, there will be PDFs, important exam-like questions. We will give you focused mentorship. These are some of the highlights from our premium plan. The course fee for the premium plan is $450, and the course fee for the standard plan is $300. Now, if you want to register to a course, you have to sign up to our website first. You have to enter your details and you have to create your account. After creating the account, you have to click on Course Catalog. From the course catalog, you will see 2 options of MRCOG 1. You will see 2 plans, premium plan and the standard plan. So you can click on any plan, whatever you want to choose. After clicking on the premium plan, you have to click on Get this course, and then you will get to know about the payment details. So if you want to join the standard plan, then again, you have to click on Get this course. After this, you will be enrolled in the standard plan. So if you have any question regarding how to join the course, you can message us directly in the chat box. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call Dr. Ramya to continue with the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asma.
Always
a warm welcome.
Ramya.
Thank you. A warm welcome to all the students. So today, I think that was a great introduction given by Asma, where you could understand about the med exam. So we are going to help you throughout the course and help you to clear the MRCOG Part 1. So today, I'll be telling you about the topic of amenorrhea. So amenorrhea is one topic which is usually there's a lot of confusion. So I thought we'll, in this free webinar, we'll discuss about amenorrhea and understand how we teach throughout the course also. And at any point of time, if you have any queries, you can ask or message in the comment box. So myself, I am Dr. Ramya Sree. I am an obstetrician from India. As well, I'm an infertility specialist. So MRCOG part 1, you always have not only about the obstetrics, there's a lot about the anatomy, physiology. There are 19 subjects which we have to concentrate. So before I start with amenorrhea, I would like to discuss about some major points about the embryology. So to start with, we have bipotential gonads. So initially we have the bipotential gonads. So what do I mean by bipotential gonads? So when I tell bipotential gonads, it means the gonads are neutral. They can either become testis or they can either become the ovary. So what is the one which decides whether it is going to become a testis or whether it is going to become an ovary is the SRY gene. And this SRY gene is located on short arm of Y chromosome. So if SRY gene is present on the short arm of Y chromosome, it will automatically become the testis. If SRY gene is absent, then it will become ovary. Then it will form into ovary. So that's the most important point. So this SRY gene is also called as testicular determining factor. It's also called as testicular determining factor. So the first point is we have a neutral gonads or the bipotential gonads, which can either become a testis or which can either become an ovary. And who is the deciding factor whether it is becoming an ovary or a testis? It is the SRY gene. And where is this SRY gene located? It is present on the short arm of Y chromosome. Right. So the next point is once we have the gonads formed, so in the testis, you have mainly two types of cells, guys. So in the testis, we have two types of cells. That is the Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. So gonadal development is dependent on the SRY gene on short arm of Y chromosome, whereas the duct development, whether it will become whether the Mullerian duct will grow or whether the Wolffian duct will grow will depend on the second step. Now, Leydig cells secrete testosterone, whereas Sertoli cells secrete anti-Mullerian hormone. As the name itself tells, anti-Mullerian hormone, the function of the anti-Mullerian hormone is the regression of Mullerian duct. Now, this introduction is very important for you to understand the amenorrhea. So, I'm giving you a brief introduction. Now, what is the function of testosterone? Testosterone helps in the growth of Wolffian duct. And that will help, that will transform into epididymis, that will give rise to epididymis, seminal vesicles, vas deferens, and ejaculatory duct. So these are the four things which arise from the Wolffian duct. So now if you understand, for the male development, there is the testosterone which is required. And anti-Mullerian hormone helps in the regression of the Mullerian duct. Now, if I'll ask you a question, guys. So if there is an absence of anti-Mullerian hormone, then what will happen? What are the ducts which will develop? Imagine it's a 46XY, but there is absence of AMH. Then what are the ducts which will develop? Anyone would like to answer in the comment box directly? Am I audible to all of you? Very good, Vasif. So if AMH is absent, not only Wolffian duct, they'll also have Mullerian duct. both ducts will grow. Both ducts will grow, right? So Wolffian duct is also called as mesonephric duct, whereas Mullerian duct is also called as paramesonephric duct, right? Okay, next point. Now regarding the female, in the female, there is no SRY gene, so ovary develops. There is no AMH, so Mullerian duct develops. So Mullerian duct develops. And there is no testosterone initially, so Wolffian duct will regress. So this is regarding the ductal growth and development of the internal genitalia. So Mullerian duct will give rise to proximal 2/3 of fallopian tube, uterus, cervix, and upper 2/3 of vagina. Lower 1/3 of vagina will arise from the urogenital sinus. Lower 1/3 of vagina will arise from the urogenital sinus. So I hope you understood. The internal genitalia development depends on the anti-Mullerian hormone. It depends on the anti-Mullerian hormone. Now coming to the external genitalia development. Now external genitalia development depends on the testosterone. If there is in utero exposure to testosterone, then it will give rise to male external genitalia. And if there is absence of testosterone, it will give rise to female external genitalia. Now, please remember this brief embryology explanation which I have given, because this will help you to understand the amenorrhea. I've always observed students get confused in amenorrhea, but if you know this brief introduction, you will definitely feel easy to understand the amenorrhea, right? So first and foremost, what does amenorrhea means? Amenorrhea means complete absence of menstruation. So we have physiological amenorrhea as well as we have pathological amenorrhea. We have physiological amenorrhea and we have pathological amenorrhea. In physiological, we have pregnancy, pre-puberty, lactation, and menopause. Pathological, we have primary amenorrhea, we have secondary amenorrhea. Now, in primary amenorrhea, we again have false primary amenorrhea, which we also call it as cryptomenorrhea. And we have true primary amenorrhea. So today we will try to concentrate on the primary amenorrhea. So I'll be speaking both false or cryptomenorrhea and true. Right, now can I ask you one thing, guys? So what is when does the menstruation start? What is very important for the menstruation to begin? What access is required for menstruation to begin? Yes, anyone? Excellent, Ritu and Jairam. Very good. So we require the HPO axis to develop in order for the menstruation to develop, right? So regarding the HPO axis from the hypothalamus, we require pulsatile GnRH. So it's very important that the GnRH should be pulsatile secretion. So only when we have pulsatile GnRH secretion, it will go stimulate the pituitary to release FSH and LH. And this FSH and LH will go stimulate the ovary to produce our estrogen and progesterone, which will go act on the uterus And withdrawal of this estrogen and progesterone will lead to menstruation. So the most important organs for the menstruation to begin are hypothalamus, pituitary, ovary, and uterus. Whenever there is a problem in any of these organs, then it can lead to amenorrhea. That's the basic thing, guys. So it can be either a problem in hypothalamus and pituitary, or it can be a problem in ovary, or it can be a problem in uterus. Right? If any at any point, if there is a problem, it can result in amenorrhea. In spite of no problem at any of these, neither there is a problem at hypothalamus, nor there is a problem at pituitary, nor at ovary, nor at uterus. But in spite of that, if she is not able to menstruate, then what do you call it as? Then we call it as false primary amenorrhea or cryptomenorrhea. That is itself false primary amenorrhea or cryptomenorrhea, right? Now, do you know what are the hormones which are responsible for pulsatility of GnRH? So for pulsatile GnRH, we require leptin. That's why obese girls will menstruate early, whereas thin girls will have delayed menarche, right? Next, kisspeptin. So these are some important glutamate. These are helpful for pulsatility of GnRH. Now, what are the hormones which decrease the pulsatility of GnRH? Which decrease are GABA. That's why whenever we are stressed, the periods, the menstrual cycle becomes irregular. And neuropeptide Y also decreases the pulsatility of GnRH. Now, we'll see one question and you will understand about the cryptomenorrhea. So what is the definition of primary amenorrhea? Definition is very important. So definition of primary amenorrhea is, in the absence of secondary sexual characteristics, no menses till the age of 13 years. And in the presence of secondary sexual characteristics, no menses till the age of 15 years. We call it as primary amenorrhea. Earlier it was 14-16 cutoff, but now it has been changed to 13-15, guys. So in the absence of secondary sexual characteristics, no menses till the age of 13 years. In the presence of secondary sexual characteristics, no menses till age 15 years. So secondary sexual characteristics are the one which develops first compared to menstruation. So the order of the puberty is, first they'll have growth spurt, followed by breast development. That's nothing but the thelarche. Followed by, they'll have pubarch. Followed by height development. Last is menarche. Now, one of the characteristic in my teaching is I always try to give you some mnemonics. So, you know, it will be easy for you to remember things. So here, the mnemonic which I have to remember the order of the puberty is gross BPH in males. This is mnemonic, okay, to remember. So G, growth spurt, B, breast development, P, pubarch, H, height, M, menarche. So it is gross BPH in males. Okay. Right. So now next, let's see this question and try to answer. A 13-year-old young girl presents in the casualty with acute pain in the lower abdomen. She has a history of cyclical pain abdomen for last 6 months. She has not attained her menarche yet. On local genital examination, a tense bulge in the region of hymen was seen. The most probable diagnosis is... Very good, excellent, Ritu, Jairam, correct. So this is very classical of imperforate hymen. So something which is pointing out towards your answer of imperforate hymen is tense bulge in the region of hymen, right? Now, imperforate hymen is causing what type of amenorrhea? Is it a true primary amenorrhea or is it a false primary amenorrhea? Yes, excellent, Ritu. So it's a false primary amenorrhea, or we can also call it as cryptomenorrhea. We can also call it as cryptomenorrhea, right? Very good, Vasiv. Right. So next, coming to the, so let's just have a brief discussion about the cryptomenorrhea. So anything which is causing outflow obstruction will lead to false primary amenorrhea or cryptomenorrhea. Can you quote me any other examples which can lead to cryptomenorrhea? Apart from imperforate hymen? Yes, very good. Transverse vaginal septum. Yes, transverse vaginal septum is the another one which we can think which will leads to a false primary amenorrhea or cryptomenorrhea. Yes, excellent, Vasif. Cervical atresia or cervical stenosis. Even vaginal atresia can also lead to cryptomenorrhea. So here, there is no problem in the HPO uterine axis, but there is a problem with outflow. That's the reason we are calling it as cryptomenorrhea or false primary amenorrhea. Among all the causes of cryptomenorrhea, the most common cause is imperforate hymen. So in imperforate hymen, the clinical presentation will be, she'll have primary amenorrhea. What will be the karyotype, guys? Will there be any problem in the karyotype? No, it will be absolutely normal, right? So karyotype will be 46XX. Phenotypically, she'll be female. Gonads will be there is no SRY gene. So what will be the gonad? Ovary. Ovary. What about the secondary sexual characteristics? Will they be well developed or not developed? See, this is like a simple mathematics, guys. Yes, whenever there is an ovary, there is estrogen. So secondary sexual characteristics are well developed. So everything is normal except she's not menstruating. Actually, she's menstruating, but the menstrual blood is not able to come out. So as she's menstruating every month, she'll have cyclical pain abdomen. And very rarely, what can happen is the blood starts accumulating in the vagina, which we call it as hematocolpus. This loaded vagina, hematocolpus, can compress the urethra. And what can it lead to? It will cause acute retention of urine. It will lead to acute retention of urine. Now the blood can go back into the uterus, which we call it as hematometra. Then it can go into the fallopian tube, which we call it as hematosalpinx. And later it can go into the pelvis also, that is, it has a risk of endometriosis. If untreated, it can go for endometriosis. So what is the management of, and when you do a local examination, you will see a tense bluish bulge in the hymen. So what is the management for the, imperforate hymen? Excellent, Mona. So you have to just give a cruciate or a X-shaped incision on the hymen, bulged hymen. So we give a cruciate or X-shaped incision, right? And drain out the menstrual blood. So that's about the first, that is cryptomenorrhea or false primary amenorrhea. Now we'll go to the next, true primary amenorrhea. Now we'll discuss about true primary amenorrhea. So the true primary amenorrhea, I divide it into compartment wise, guys. So compartment 1, there's a defect in the uterus. So there are two conditions where there is an absent uterus. One is complete Mullerian agenesis, which is also called as MRKH, Mayer-Rokitansky-Kushner-Hauser syndrome. Second one is androgen insensitivity syndrome or testicular feminization syndrome. Compartment 2 is abnormality in the ovary. So we have gonadal agenesis or gonadal dysgenesis. Can you quote me any example for gonadal dysgenesis? You all know it. Turners. Another gonadal dysgenesis is Swayers. Next, compartment 3 is pituitary. In the pituitary, we have prolactinoma, which is the most important. Apart from that, any pituitary tumors like craniopharyngioma. Compartment 4, hypothalamic defect, which is nothing but the Kallman syndrome. Okay. Now, the other way of writing this is, when there is a uterine defect, is there any problem in the hypothalamus? Will the gonadotrophins be produced? Yes. Right. So there will be pulsatile GnRH, there will be FSH-LH, there will be estrogen progesterone, but only thing, as there is no uterus, they're not able to act on the uterus. So is it hypogonadotrophic cause or hypergonadotrophic cause or eugonadotrophic cause? Uterine defect. Eugonadotrophic. So uterine, you can also call it as eugonadotrophic eugonadism. Right. Now coming to the ovary. So in ovary, normally what happens? The estrogen is the one. There is a love story here. FSH is in deep love with estrogen. But is estrogen interested in FSH? There is a one-sided love story. FSH is in deep love with estrogen, but does estrogen love FSH? No, right? So whenever there is high levels of estrogen, what does estrogen do to FSH? High levels of estrogen. Will it cause positive feedback on FSH or negative feedback on FSH? It causes negative feedback on FSH and down regulation on FSH. But here, as the ovary is defective, we don't have estrogen and progesterone. So there is nobody to cause negative feedback on FSH and LH. So there is hypergonadotrophic, but hypogonadism. So ovarian defect, we can also write it as hypergonadotrophic. So gonadotrophins are more, but there is no estrogen and progesterone from the ovary, so hypogonadism. Now similarly, can you tell about pituitary and hypothalamus? How are we going to express about the pituitary and hypothalamus? So in pituitary and hypothalamic defect, there is no gonadotrophins at all. So there is no gonadotrophins, so there won't be any estrogen and progesterone also. So this you can call it as hypogonadotrophic, hypogonadism. Am I clear to all of you regarding this much? Yes, right. Okay. So now I'll discuss about MRKH, AIS, because these are something which are always confusing to all of us. So I'll speak about all these. Now, most common cause of primary amenorrhea is Turner syndrome, guys. Most common cause of primary amenorrhea is Turner syndrome. So I will first speak about Turner syndrome. So Turner syndrome, so take it as like, 4 or 5 important points. Turner syndrome, what is the karyotype which we'll have? 45XO, right? Will there be bar body in Turner's? There is no bar body in Turner's. Excellent, right? There is no bar body in the Turner's, right? Because there's only one X, right? So the karyotype here is 45XO. In Turner mosaic, it's a different. Turner mosaic will have 46XX, right? So the karyotype is 45XO. Phenotypically, they are female. What about the gonads here? What about the gonad? Gonads are streak ovaries. So will there be estrogen in these patients? So there won't be any estrogen. So what about the secondary sexual characteristics? So as there is no estrogen, secondary sexual characteristics will be present or absent. Who is the main hormone which is required for development of secondary sexual characteristics in female? It's the estrogen. As there is streak ovaries, there is no estrogen. So what about the secondary sexual characteristics, absent or present? It's okay, whatever you answer, I'm okay. You have to just, yes. So secondary sexual characteristics are absent. Secondary sexual characteristics are absent. So in Turners, they'll have, so the classical Turners, how do they look? Head to toe. They'll have short stature, webbed neck. As they don't have secondary sexual characteristics, they'll have flat chest with widely spaced nipples. Excellent, Jairam. So they'll have cubitus valgus. Short fourth metacarpal. What is the most common heart defect in the patients with Turners? So they'll have Turners. It is turn, coarctation of aorta. Aorta is turned. See, Turner name. So aorta is turned. So they'll have coarctation of aorta. Streak ovaries. And how will be the uterus here? Infantile uterus. Because for the growth of the uterus, you require estrogen. As the estrogen is absent, so the uterus will be small. So do you understand everything is interconnected? So that small link we have to understand, okay? Now coming to the treatment. So what are they deficient, Turners? They're deficient in estrogen. So what should be the treatment? Lifelong supplementation of, we will give only estrogen, or we have to give estrogen plus progesterone? See, if I give only estrogen, what will happen? Estrogen will cause unopposed growth of endometrium and can lead to endometrial carcinoma. So lifelong supplementation of both estrogen and progesterone. So because of that, she'll have secondary sexual characteristics developed, she'll have menstruation, but can she have her own genetic child? She cannot have own genetic child because there is no ovary here. They cannot have own genetic child because there is no ovary here, right? Excellent, Jaira. But estrogen, we start from 10 years. Estrogen we start from 10 years for the puberty changes, and once around 12 years we can start with estrogen and progesterone. We start with very low dose of estrogen, because prolonged estrogen can lead to endometrial carcinoma, right? And we also have a Turner mosaic component. Yes, they can go for egg donation, they can go for oocyte donors, but even if they go for oocyte donors, it's not their genetic child, no? Right? Now there is also a Turner mosaic component, which I'm not speaking here. Now we'll go for the MRKH. This is considered to be second most common cause of secondary amenorrhea, primary amenorrhea. Sorry. So coming to the MRKH or Mullerian agenesis. So in MRKH or Mullerian agenesis, again, what will be the karyotype? So here, the basic problem here is there is no uterus at all. There's a complete absence of uterus. So it will be 46XX. Phenotypically, they are female. Gonad, do they have a problem in the gonad or do they have ovary? So there is no problem in the gonad. The gonad is ovary itself. So what about the secondary sexual characteristics here? What about the secondary sexual characteristics here? Excellent. Secondary sexual characteristics are present. Right? The only problem here is they have absence of, yes, it's a well-developed secondary sexual characteristic. So there is a small connection. If they have ovary, then they'll have estrogen and they'll have well-developed secondary sexual characteristics. So here the only problem is there is absence of uterus and upward 2/3 of vagina, right? Now for her, can she get married like a normal girl, or will there be any difficulty? So only problem here is there is absence of uterus. So obviously, yes, she can, right? So what is the treatment which we have to give her here? And one more important point, Mullerian agenesis are associated with renal and skeletal anomalies, guys. They are associated with renal and skeletal anomalies. Excellent. So for her to have a good sexual life, we have to go for a vaginal dilators. So we have to go for vaginoplasty. Now, when do we go for vaginoplasty? So we have to go for vaginoplasty just before her marriage. So we can go for mechanical dilators like Frank dilator. Or we can go for surgeries. So in the surgeries, we have McIndoe's, Williams vulvovaginoplasty, so these are some of the surgeries which we have for vaginoplasty. Now, can she have her own genetic child? Understand my question. Can she have her own genetic child? Yes. As the ovary is present, she can have her own genetic child. Only uterus is not present. So what we can do for the substitute of the uterus? So we can go for a uterine rent. So what do we call uterine rent as? Yes. So can have own genetic child with surrogacy, or in recent time there is also uterine transplantation, right? So can have own genetic child with surrogacy, with surrogate mom. So that's about the MRKH. Now coming to the, so in MRKH, secondary sexual characteristics are present means they will have presence of breast development, axillary and pubic hair, right? Now next coming to the AIS or testicular feminization syndrome. Here, anybody want to comment anything on AIS or testicular feminization syndrome? So phenotypically, do they look like a male or female? Very good, Ritu. Karyotype here is 46XY. So they are phenotypically female, although the karyotype is 46XY. Indeed, they're very beautiful females, right? So here the phenotype is a female, but karyotype is male. So whenever SRY gene is present on Y chromosome, what will be the gonad? Will it be ovary or testis? Yes, excellent. The gonad is testis, right? So as the gonad is testis, will they have uterus? It causes regression of Mullerian duct. So there will be no uterus. The main problem in AIS or testicular feminization syndrome is there is testosterone receptor defect. Because of which the entire testosterone gets converted into estrogen. Now, as the estrogen is present, will the secondary sexual characteristics develop or they don't develop in this AIS? Very good. Secondary sexual characteristics are developed. But there is no axillary and pubic hair. There's no axillary and pubic hair. What about the external genitalia? Will external genitalia look like a female or a male? So I told you for external genitalia, what is required? Yes, excellent, Jairam. So external genitalia growth requires testosterone. But here, as testosterone is not able to act on its receptor, so external genitalia will look like a female with a blind vagina. So here also again the treatment will go for vaginoplasty, and for her to maintain, can we keep those gonads? So usually those gonads will present to you with inguinal hernia because there is no scrotal sac. So what these gonads have? These gonads have the risk of developing malignancy. Yes, they have the risk of getting this seminoma. So as there is a risk of malignancy, you have to go for gonadectomy. And you have to do gonadectomy after puberty, after secondary sexual characteristics are developed. After secondary sexual characteristics are developed. So you do gonadectomy after puberty, after secondary sexual characteristics are developed. And post gonadectomy, you have to give her, to maintain her feminine secondary sexual characteristics. What is a hormone which you have to supplement her? Estrogen. Now, do you require to give progesterone here? Do you require to give progesterone here? See, the concept of giving progesterone is whenever you have uterus for unopposed, yes, excellent. So there is no need of giving progesterone here. There is no need of giving progesterone here, right? Now, next is swayers. So swayers, again, the phenotype in swayers is female, but the karyotype here is 46XY, but this is a SRY gene mutation. So when there is no SRY gene, what will be the gonad which will develop? So SRY gene is most important for testicular development. As there is SRY gene, here we'll have this genetic gonad or streak gonad. So it's neither ovary nor testis. It's just a streak gonad. So as there is a streak gonad, there is no testosterone, there is no estrogen. But will the uterus develop or uterus won't develop? Now I want others also to answer. I see Jairam and Ritu answering, but I want others also to participate. Yes, comment about the uterus. Will uterus be present in spheres or will uterus be absent in spheres? Even if you answer correct or wrong, doesn't matter, just answer. You all can put forward yes or no. Yes. Yes, Ritu, Jairam. Vasif. So what is required for uterine growth? Absence of AMH. Now as here it is a streak gonad, there is no AMH. So uterus is present. Excellent, Jairam. Uterus is present. What about the secondary sexual characteristics? Will secondary sexual characteristics be present or absent? As there is no estrogen, so secondary sexual characteristics are absent. They are not developed. So XY uterus present, but secondary sexual characteristics absent. It is spheres. So it is completely same like Turner's, right? So you have to give lifelong supplementation of both estrogen and progesterone here. So this is regarding the important disorders which we have with primary amenorrhea. Next, one last thing is Calamence. So Calamence is a hypothalamic defect. So there, the placode which generates the GnRH is completely absent. And that's the same placode from where olfactory lobes also migrate. So it is a Cal gene defect. And there is absence of GnRH plus anosmia. The karyotype here, this can be observed both in males as well as females. So as I'm discussing here, females, it is 46XX. Gonad, will gonad be present or absent here? So gonad will be present because there is no problem in the gonad. So gonad will be ovary. Will uterus be present or absent, guys? See, only when AMH is there, uterus will be absent. As ovaries don't produce AMH at birth, uterus will be present. But what about the secondary sexual characteristics? Will they be developed or not developed? Absence of GnRH, so no HPO axis. So what about the secondary sexual characteristics? Will they be developed or not developed? They will be not developed. They'll be not developed. Right? So now, what is the management which you want to give for the patient with Calamence syndrome? The main problem is absence of GnRH. So what should be the treatment? You have to give the GnRH so it can stimulate the FSH-LH and it can stimulate the ovary to produce estrogen and progesterone. So you can either give her pulsatile GnRH, but that's very expensive and not practically easy. So we alternate to that is, yes, you can give injection HCG. HCG is similar to the FSH and LH. So HCG will stimulate the ovary to produce the estrogen and progesterone, right? So that is regarding all the disorders which we have in the primary amenorrhea. Now we'll see some MCQs to understand how much we understood from this session. Okay. So we'll just see some MCQs now. Right. Let's start with the first question. A 19-year-old patient complains of primary amenorrhea. She has well-developed breast and pubic hair, but on examination, there was absence of uterus and vagina. Likely diagnosis is. Very good, excellent. So here, there is primary amenorrhea. Just a minute, I think I missed. Right. So here there is a 19-year-old primary amenorrhea. She has well-developed breast and pubic hair. Means there is secondary sexual characteristics present. Right. But there is absence of uterus and vagina. So there were only two conditions where there was absence of uterus and vagina. That was AIS and Mullerian agenesis. In AIS, we don't have development of breast and pubic hair. There won't be pubic hair. But here, as there is development of breast and pubic hair, this goes in favor of Mullerian agenesis. Mullerian agenesis. Right? Let's go to the next question. All of the following statements about androgen insensitivity syndrome are true except patients have XY genotype, pubic hair are abundant, short vagina may be present, ovaries are absent. Very good, excellent. So we all are aware that here the pubic hair is absent. Because there is testosterone receptor defect, the pubic hair is absent. Right? Very good, excellent. 17-year-old girl with amenorrhea, atrophied breast, and hypoplastic uterus. What is the diagnosis which you have? Amenorrhea, atrophied breast, and hypoplastic uterus. Yes, it goes more in favor of Turner's. It goes more in favor of Turner's. A 16-year-old girl with blind vagina and absent uterus presents to you. The investigation you will like to do first is so what are the two different, very good user. So what are the two differential diagnoses which you are thinking here? One is MRKH and the other differential diagnosis based on the history. MRKH and AIS. How can we differentiate between MRKH and AIS? By karyotyping. Right? So that's why the answer here will go for karyotyping. In MRKH, the karyotype is 46XX, whereas AIS, the karyotype is 46XY. In AIS, the karyotype is 46XY. Right? So this we have solved. So those are the important, questions which can be asked in primary amenorrhea. Now to summarize, whenever you get a patient with primary amenorrhea, find out the history and physical examination. Followed by, you have to identify whether secondary sexual characteristics are present or absent. If secondary sexual characteristics are present, what is the first thing which is striking your brain? Don't see there. You tell me what is the first thing which strikes your brain if secondary sexual characteristics are present. Which hormone is present if secondary sexual characteristics is present? Excellent, Ritu. If secondary sexual characteristics are present, it means estrogen is present. Estrogen is present, right? So if secondary sexual characteristics are present, you have to perform a USG. and C for the uterus. If uterus is also present, then it's an outflow obstruction. So yes, it's an imperforate hymen or transverse vaginal septum. If there is no outflow obstruction, then you have to consider it as a secondary amenorrhea and further follow. If uterus is absent or abnormal, karyotype you have to do. If it is 46XX, it is Mullerian agenesis. If it is 46XY, then it is androgen insensitivity syndrome. If secondary sexual characteristics are absent, then estrogen is absent. So probably it is a hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian defect. So you have to measure FSH and LH levels. If FSH and LH are less than 5, it means there is no FSH LH. So it is a hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. Can you quote me any example of hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism, guys? Can you quote me an example for hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism? Excellent. Prolactinoma. One more, which is associated with anosmia. Calamans. Right? No, Turner's won't come for the, yes, craniopharyngioma, you can tell. Turner's won't come for hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. Turner's will be hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism, right? Because gonads are not working there, but there is increased FSH and LH. So if FSH is more than 20 and LH is more than 40, you call it as hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism. Do the karyotype analysis. If it is 46XX, it is premature ovarian failure. If it is 45XO, it is Turner's. And if it is 46XY, then it is Smear's. So that's about the short discussion about the primary amenorrhea. So this is how we brief you, and we always have an interactive session with you all. So there are 19 subjects which you have to learn, and you get a study group also on the med exam expert, where we give you your 24/7 assistance. So any doubts, you can let me know now, guys. Yes. Thank you so much, Jairam, and thank you, Ritu. Thank you, Vasif. So we have some more free webinars for the week, guys. So we have Dr. Nairus taking the free webinar on 29th, similar time, where they'll discuss anti-abdominal wall, which is very important. So don't miss it. And we have Dr. Mohammed Helmi taking another free webinar on 12th October. That's also a very important topic, which is abdominal incisions, nerve injuries during gynecological surgeries. So you can join those 2 free webinars, followed by so the course highlights are, we are going to have a live sessions as well. You can also get the session recording, guys. And we are going to post flashcards, like this entire topic, the important flashcards for you to revise in the last. And we're going to provide the PDF of all topics. You have a study group, a special study group for you all, so that you can discuss and you can interact and you can motivate each other to study. Important exam-like questions will be posted in the study group. You have a focused mentorship, which I think you could understand from this session. You get a mock exams, you get weekly topic tests. You again have a biostat workshop and 24/7 technical support, and you will get all the books. So now our team will help you with any further questions you can put forward. So thank you, guys. Thank you so